All right. This time I would like to call the regular meeting to order. Clerk of the board, please call the roll.
Arancibia. Hall.
Here.
Segura.
Here.
Solis.
Present.
Tarantino. Aguirre.
Present.
This is the point of the agenda where members of the public may address the board on matters posted for the special meeting and in accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3. Section A, the board will provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body concerning any item that has been described in the notice for the meeting, before or during consideration of that item. Each person wishing to address an item on the meeting notice in closed session will also have 2 minutes to do so.
There are no speakers, Mr. President.
There is no communication. I will recess the meeting for the consideration of the following closed session items as posted on the meeting notice. 1, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956. 3, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. We will now adjourn to closed session. Okay, at this time, I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Clerk of the board, please call roll.
Arencibia, Hall,
Present.
Segura,
Here.
Solis,
Present?
Tarantino, Aguirre,
Present.
Stubblefield.
Here.
We will now hold the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student board member, Gabrielle Stubblefield.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gabrielle. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. 1, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. 3, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board take the following action. Moved by Segura, seconded by Hall, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with the vote of Arencibia absent. Hall, yes. Seguro, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, absent. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the June 27th, 2022 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion
I will second.
and a second.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino, Stubblefield.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent.
The board is very honored to recognize our student board representative, Ms. Gabrielle Stubblefield, for her dedicated service this past year. Her reports and comments were always very informative and insightful, and we thank her for being such a positive voice for the students. We wish her the best of luck in her senior year. We are also happy to introduce the new student board representative from Olympian High School, Ms. Laila Carriaga. So if we can give Ms. Gabrielle a round of applause for Did any board member want to say anything before we take our picture and her plaque?
I would just say I truly appreciate the work that you have done and communicating your fellow presidents' concerns and wishes and just things that you discussed in the role that you have. We all know you're gonna do great things and after your last year in high school, and I look forward to hearing about that, and thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Tarantino?
Yes, Gabrielle, I'd like to thank you for bringing to us the student voice, which is very important, because that's why we're all here. We're here to hear what the students have to say, and I appreciate the work that you did with the ASB presidents, and again, championing their voices at the board meeting. And we wish you all the best. As a senior, enjoy. This is your last year, next year will be your last year of high school, and so make the most of it. And I know that you will be active on campus and probably in the community based on what you've done so far. So congratulations, and again, thank you for everything that you've done for us. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. Vice President Hall?
Thank you, President Solis. And yes, Ms. Stubblefield, I'm very appreciative of your reports over the past month, but also for the work you've done to represent students. I understand. I was in a meeting this weekend and met with the president of the California Student School Board Association. And I know exactly Peterson. He said that our student board member was part of that association, and I'm very glad for that, to know that you're bringing student voice, not only for us, but for students statewide. I know work that they're doing. So thank you for that and much appreciation. And I know you'll have a great senior year. Looking forward to hearing more from you. You know, come back and see us sometime, but I really appreciate what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. Too want to echo the comments of gratitude for your service, for being a representative of our students and truly doing that in an excellent way. I also, of particular note, want to say thank you for sometimes, I know members of the public may have confused you for one of the adults on the board, and you handled that with poise and grace, and I want to say thank you for doing that, and I too look forward to hearing how your senior year comes around, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. I too want to say it's been amazing having you here. The voice that you bring for the students is impressive, and I know the quality of students that we have here at Sweetwater, you just show that we have great quality students, and you do a wonderful job representing them and bringing their voice to us. So thank you for everything you've done. Appreciate you. All right, so we're gonna get a plaque. So let's take a picture right over there with Mr. Tarantino and Vice President Hall, so we can get them in the picture. Ms. Stubblefield, and you'll have some time later for a report, but did you want to say anything?
I did. I have a lot of the things are in my report, but I just wanted to say thank you for everyone. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate, like I was just going around just telling everyone, I really appreciate what you guys do, and I know it can be extremely difficult, especially like going through a year like this is such an adjustment. But I just wanted to say that all of your work here is appreciated and valued, and it's essential to our district. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ms. Lila, would you like to say anything to the board? Oh, go ahead and come up to the mic so they can all hear you. Thank you. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Hi. I'm just very excited to be able to carry on her very obvious legacy here. I'm not too sure everything that she is capable of, but I'm sure she will tell me, and I will hopefully be able to continue on what she has done. I'm very excited for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we will now have a message from Superintendent Dr. Moises Aguirre.
Thank you, President Solis. Good evening and buenas tardes. Welcome to our June 27th board meeting. This evening's update is fairly brief. First, I'd like to thank everybody who participated in summer school. Today was the final day. Thank you for successfully completing another summer school session. The second update is that our members of our cabinet and our various employee associations came together for the Labor Management Initiative Institute last week. We had an opportunity to collaborate on topics and questions regarding education here in our district, as well as an opportunity to reflect on all the work accomplished since we last convened for the LMI some years ago. Thank you to the California Department of Education Foundation for facilitating this institute this year. And lastly, again, I just want to emphasize our gratitude to Ms. Stubblefield for her year of service. And with that, I conclude my update.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. And we will now have the final report from our Student Board Representative, Ms. Gabrielle Stubblefield.
Good evening. I plan to use this time to do a year in review, as it is my last meeting in which I'm serving as your 2021-22 Student Board Representative. This year, working with the environmental justice organizations and clubs district-wide, we were able to pass our first district's fracking resolution in support of sustaining a better environment for our students in our future. With regards to mental health, I, working with many schools in our district, were able to designate May as a Mental Health and Awareness Month, and being in collaboration with Dr. Theodore and other students in our district, I have started our first Sweetwater Union High School District Mental Health and Well-Being Student Leadership Council. I will continue to meet with this group as we support the education of schools on mental health and how we can break the stigma that follows. I also had the opportunity to work with Anna Maya to pass the resolution regarding anti-Semitism and religious tolerance in our district. During this year, I've also had the honor of working with our district's ASB presidents, ASB assistant principals, and our ASB student leaders, who have all helped motivate and inspire our schools in this time of an adjustment. As I leave you with my last message, I would like to express how grateful I am that I was chosen to hold this position. Thank you for allowing me to lead you this year and for your support. I'd like to thank, just one moment, please. I'd like to thank Ms. Vicedo, Ms. Imelda, Ms. Maria Esther Lizarraga, Dr. Moore, Mr. Winters, Ms. Quirk, Ms. Pedroza, Dr. Salkelt, Ms. Estrada, and everyone sitting up here, the superintendent, Dr. Aguirre, the president, Mr. Solis, and the vice president. Sorry. And our Vice President Hall and Mr. Tarantino, thank you so much. I just wanted to let you know that your hard work is valued, appreciated, and doesn't go unnoticed. I wish for everyone a great 2022-2023 school year with our new student board representative, and thank you so much for allowing me this wonderful opportunity.
Yay. Thank you, Ms. Stubblefield. We would like to introduce Mr. Rafael Munoz, Chair of the CBOC, to present the annual report.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge another committee member, David Garcia, who's here, one of our bond oversight members.
Welcome, Mr. Garcia. Thank you.
And I'd also like to recognize one of our members who's terming out after 9 years, Robert Garriedo. Gave 9 years of service to the committee with his background information. I'm not here to give you a whole bunch of information on what the report is, but it's here. It's pretty understandable. We've made some progress with the bond oversight and expenditures, and the conditions of the bond have been satisfied, in my opinion, in accordance with the law and the state proposition. Did we do good? Yes. Can we do better? Yes. There are still more things we can do to improve, and I think with more effort, we can get farther along. I have no further real comments. I'm just here to answer questions and satisfy the needs of the board.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Sure. I can go. Thank you, Chairman Munoz, for your presentation, and I would hope that we could, I'm not sure if it's our practice for outgoing CBOC members to send them a thank you letter on behalf of the board. That'd be great. For Mr. I forget the gentleman, Garrido?
Garrido.
Yeah, so thank him and Mr. Garcia for being here tonight. I know it's been kind of slow, the work has been kind of slow, but hopefully that's going to change here in the next year or so, hopefully sooner than later, but thank you for all the work you've done in support of the bond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sugura. Vice President Hall?
Yes, I didn't have questions, but I did want to say thank you, Mr. Munoz, for your leadership this past year. I listened to a couple of the CBOC meetings, very informative. I appreciate the work and time and commitment. And also thank you to the outgoing member. What a record, 9 years of volunteer service to our school community is really wonderful. And I thank you for it. And I look forward to more good work being done in our schools. I know that's our intention and that will continue. So thank you for everything. Bye. That's all.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. Likewise, I want to extend my gratitude. I know it's been a
an interesting time over the last couple of years with COVID, but the fact that CBOC has continued to do the work and your leadership to have those conversations constructively with our planning and construction, I think is a healthy sign in terms of, like you said, I really agree with that. Are there some areas of progress? Yes. Can we do better? Definitely. And so I definitely appreciate that sentiment, and I want to extend my gratitude.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Munoz.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. This is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. Pursuant to board bylaw, the board may limit the time for public comment on any single topic to 20 minutes per topic. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. Speakers shall refrain from using profanity and shall speak in a respectful manner. Thank you for your cooperation.
The first speaker is Melanie Martinez. Martinez? Okay, maybe she'll come on the line. Janet Tope? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Melanie Martinez, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Hello? Okay, she disconnected. Janet Tope? Tope, sorry. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Janet Tope. I had the honors of teaching and working with the Sweetwater Union High School District for 38 years. I'm actually was going to piggyback on what Ms. Martina was going to be speaking about tonight. But basically, the bottom line is the support for our students in our district that are served with moderate severe disabilities. I was hired as an instructional healthcare assistant in 1998 by Dr. Angie Hawkins. And it was historically our practice to provide, starting out with our classrooms, to provide 2 instructional healthcare assistants per class, okay? And if there are any other additional needs, students with intense instructional services, kind of what we call one-on-one, they were added to those 2 instructional healthcare assistants, increasing the support to meet the needs of our students, especially those students with more severe needs, okay? I was a teacher for 26 years. I found my love working with our students with moderate severe disabilities. Over the course of those 26 years, even before COVID, what started happening is the administration would look at the total number of our students, okay? And then they would divide that by the number of staff in the classroom. So let's say you have 12 students and you have, what happened recently, and this is Ms. Lara is going to be addressing, there was a classroom at Otay Ranch High School with 9 students, okay? 3 of those students had extra support on their IEP. There were 2 instructional assistants assigned to that classroom and the teacher. So what I've seen administrators do is they take that total and divide it by the total number of adults. So they were looking at this classroom of 9 students, 3 with severe ongoing constant support, and with only 2 aides and 1 teacher. So you do a 9 divided by 3. Well, that's a 1-to-3 ratio, okay? So you divide your class into 3 groups, you have 3. So, but if you're with one student who has those severe, redirectional material needs, that person, that adult, is most likely not going to be remaining with that small group. The student that has those severe needs often is not sitting here waiting for instructional, to follow directions. So they're off and they're on doing whatever they need, they're doing, and the person has to support that child for behavior, social, safety needs. So what's happening is those students that remain in that group, they're being neglected, okay, and really not supported as needed, is from my understanding and what I have experienced also. So I know at Otay Ranch High School we were going through the WASP progress, and I think when our mission statement ended up being something that there is to be rigor for all students. Well, if we don't have the proper support in our classrooms for students with moderate severe disabilities, there is no rigor of instruction going on. on. You're just basically trying to keep everybody safe, fed, taken care of, and we feel like we're babysitters, honestly. So I just feel that, I know that special ed, consumes a lot of the funds. I understand that. But I just feel that what happens is that our support needs get put at the bottom of the list. And especially during COVID, I think that those students should have been put at the top of the list because those are our most fragile students, especially in a pandemic. And they needed the support, and the support was not given for one semester. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you.
Ms. Martinez, can you hear me? Ms. Martinez? Okay, you can go ahead and make your comments.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Martinez.
Can you hear me?
Unmuted. Muted.
Hello?
Unmuted.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And I can't hear you all, but I'm just going to speak and hope that I don't go past the 3 minutes. But my name is Melinda Martinez. I'm an attorney in the state of California and in the state of Oregon. And I'm here on behalf of Maria Esther Lara, who's standing here before you right now in the blue. And for the past 18 years, and these are her words, for the past 18 years, I worked as an instructional healthcare assistant at Otay Ranch High School with students with disabilities. I wrote to the board on June 2nd to address the issues I raise here now that have been greatly impacting my students and that Janet just spoke about. I would not be retiring at this time were it not for the issues that I have gone unaddressed and that have been unaddressed and ultimately when addressed in a retaliatory manner by specific personnel. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, students with disabilities at Otay Ranch had at least 4 instructional healthcare assistants per 8 students or so. Students requiring one-on-one assistance typically had an available assistant without having to share care with other students. That has since changed. I raised these staffing shortages issues in July of 2021 with Dr. Martha Ingham, the school psychologist at Otay Ranch. Her initial response was that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the staffing shortages were unavoidable. Her specific words was, "There's nothing we can do." When I asked if parents knew about this, her response was yes, and I have since learned that that was not true. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach because the disabilities differ, which means the number of healthcare assistants, teachers, and other personnel requires evaluation each year with the incoming new students. In my last class, there were 3 out of 8 students requiring one-on-one assistance that includes feeding, hygiene, toilet changing, bodily control, constant supervision, self-harm avoidance, such as stopping the student from harming themselves or others, runners, and so on. For the entire class, there were only 2 instructional healthcare assistants plus the teacher for those 8 students. When additional staffing has been requested, existing staff is challenged to somehow meet the needs of the students without having any legitimate response or support by Otay Ranch leadership. When Otay Ranch finally did hire new staff toward the end of the semester, it was too little too late. In addition to aggravating the situation, only 1 new staff member was placed in my classroom and only for a brief period. New staffing placements are also being done in a manner that does not take into account the needs of the students with moderate to severe conditions that require constant care. Favoritism has also played a major role in staffing placements. For example, a staff member that is less likely to challenge an approach that is damaging to Otay Ranch students is more likely to receive better placements than those who speak up for the students. When existing staff call out sick, there are not always substitutes that are available to take the place of a missing staff member. This not only places students at risk, but it also creates a situation that places staff in harm's way in the event that there's a psychological or physical crisis that only one staff member is available to control, which is not enough. The mental health, the physical health of the students and the staff has become an afterthought. We are suffering because of this, and after months of raising these issues, I was suddenly reassigned my position. These students deserve better. You cannot treat these students as second-class citizens, and I ask the board and district to investigate this and immediately take action to prevent harm to the students and to avoid losing more staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cassie Jo Newman.
Good evening. I'm Cassie Jo Newman, and this is my son Branson. And just like these other women have brought to your attention, He is one of your moderate to severe students who is actually in the transition program. He's 19, this was his first year in transition, and now for the next school year, the hours have changed. We know this, right? We've known for years that this is happening. Gavin Newsom signed it into law more than 3 years ago now. We even knew prior to that when we first moved here in 2013, there was speculation, there was talk about how eventually the school days were going to start later and later. And just like the services that are not being rendered in the typical classrooms, it has been decided that in the 2022-2023 school year, that my son will not have services before 9:30 a.m. Thankfully, I am a parent who works for the federal government. I'm able to work from home. And so the transportation issues that I feel are definitely a financial problem. You know, we know about the embezzlement. We know about the poor accounting standards that this district has been accused of in the past. And not having that transportation and not providing the services that these children need on a daily basis is going to be a huge financial impact on a lot of parents. Thankfully, I'm not in that position. I'm here to really speak up for those parents who aren't able to. We have a lot of Latina families that are in this district who have received information. Granted, yes, it is provided in English and it is provided in Spanish. Some of them have been bullied into signing the IEP amendments that have been provided to them. They have had their parent rights infringed upon by being told that if you don't sign this amendment, if you request to have any type of investigation or a hearing done by the State Board of Education, that their child, at least for the beginning of the school year, will not receive any types of services, and then they will have to then contact the regional center in order to have some type of services provided to their child that they are entitled to through the state. I think that this is, I mean, it's insane, right? We've attended the meetings with the student services, the special education department, where they basically said, oh, well, you know, they're not gonna lose a single minute of instructional time, even though they're going to start an hour later and end an hour earlier than general education students. How is this possible? You just heard these women talking about how they are impacted by not having enough aides, not being able to provide, you know, people who are able to feed the moderate to severe children, who aren't able to provide them all the services that they need. And now you are saying that we're going to cut their lunchtime, we're going to cut their in-between periods. If that's not acceptable for a general education student, if a general ed student can't start at 9:30 and end at 2:30, why would a special needs child, a special education student, why is it acceptable for them and not for anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Clerk of the Board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, the following items are pulled. F3 by staff, F8 by Mr. Segura, G6 by staff, G8 by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Segura, H2 by Mrs. Hall, H3 has been withdrawn by staff, K4 by staff, and Q6 by Mr. Segura.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino,
Yes.
Stubblefield.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, we'll start with F3. Anybody like to start us off?
Sure, I'll lead off.
Thank you, Mr. Segura.
Yep, mine will be brief. I would just like to say that over this, since the last board meeting, we had well, I don't know if I'll just do this under that instead of legislative agenda. We had a one-on-one with Senator Ben Wesso, outgoing Senator Ben Wesso. We discussed a number of things that maybe have gotten settled today around the budget and how we wanted them to happen and why. And we also thanked Senator Wessel for his support over the years, and invited him to the ribbon cutting at, if not a dive into the Mar Vista. I call it a lake because it's very massive, and that's awesome when that happens. And also, that was one of the things that I had done. And now that my mind's good. And then a follow-up with, we had a number of Council Park community members, and they gave their account of what they felt was happening at the school. And since then, I met with some of them after the meeting, and we had a nice discussion, and we set up another meeting with a cohort of them, and we'll be meeting with them to discuss it further with the superintendent, and I think that's the principal and some others tomorrow, actually. So I look forward to that and communicating with them and listening to them and getting things done as needed. And I think that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Mr. Tarantino?
Thank you, President Solis. North Island Credit Union has awarded scholarships to several of our students as part of their 2022 college scholarship program. The awards were in the amount of $1,000, and these are the students who were awarded those scholarships. Lorraine Eugenio from Bonita Vista High School, Natasha Landini from Chula Vista High School, and Armando Gutierrez from San Ysidro High School. Congratulations to all of them, and much thanks to North Island Credit Union for their involvement in our schools and in our community. Congratulations to San Ysidro High School teacher Jose Lopez, who was named the best local theater teacher at the recent Broadway San Diego Awards ceremony. More than 30 teachers were nominated, and he was selected as the drama teacher who has made the most positive impact on students and community. He will be receiving his award in New York at the end of this month. Also, congratulations and much thanks to our Director of Nutrition Services, Eric Spann, who wrote an op-ed piece in the Union Tribune that appeared in today's UT, stressing the need for nutrition and feeding our students. He gave a very good overview in terms of our program during the pandemic, as well as his advocacy for providing lunches for students and their families. And so well done, Eric. Congratulations. And I didn't have a request until I heard the speakers. And I'm particularly troubled by the comments indicating that our staff are being retaliated against and parents are being bullied and forced into signing things that maybe they don't understand. And so this isn't the first time that I've heard this. I've heard that there is retaliatory practices. I'm not certain as to whether it's coming from the district office or from the school sites, but I would like the superintendent to investigate and provide the board with a report in terms of who's doing the bullying and the retaliation and what we're going to do to stop it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. Vice President Hall?
Thank you, Solis, President Solis. I just wanted to thank Frank, Board Member Tarantino, for always bringing news about the wonderful things and accomplishments of our students and staff to our meetings. I appreciate that. I know we usually will see those type of things on school websites and social media, and I know that our communications director, Nadege Johnson, does a great job with her team of publishing much of this in the current magazines that is published. I know they do a great job and have done some additional work on recognizing and, lauding some of these accomplishments over the past year. So I want to thank them as well for the work they do in that respect. And I would like to also just share that Mar Vista High had a really record season this year for many of its athletic teams. The baseball, Mar Vista High School baseball earned the South League championship, but they also won their first, well, not their first, but their CIF title this year. And the Mar Vista boys volleyball won their first ever CIF title this year. So I think that's a great accomplishment. Aside from the other, I lost the article. I had cut out an article about one of our students at Mar Vista High had received a scholarship from the Library Association for an article she wrote. So I really appreciated that recognition was in our little local newspaper. So all students are doing great things and they're getting some good recognition. I think that's wonderful because there are so many stories of the good things that are happening in the district, and we really need to amplify those. And I agree with Mr. Tarantino that we should look into the remarks of the people that brought concerns to us at this meeting, and I would appreciate that. I know that what sometimes I really understand the dilemma about staffing issues and the challenges. I don't think it's a secret that every district in our state and across the United States is facing shortages with staff and challenges of recruiting and hiring people that have the necessary tools to be in the positions that we have. So I understand the frustrations that maybe they're facing. Anything we can do to alleviate that, and I know Dr. Gary, you and your staff are already working in that. Recently we started a training program to recruit and train people for healthcare assistants and other instructional assistants and bus drivers. All those things are in the works. So hopefully that will help relieve some of this. But I do believe that there is not an intention to do harm to any of our students by not staffing the programs appropriately. I think that it takes a lot to do what we're doing every day. I trust that we try to do better every day as well. So I look forward to that report. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to thank our community members for coming out and letting us know. Appreciate that. I was able to go to the inauguration of our newly elected 80th Assembly member to finish off the vacated 80th Assembly seat with David Alvarez, a good friend, and I know we have a good person in there for education, and I know he's going to strive to do the best for us in the school districts. Also, I was able to go to Naleo and listen to Secretary of Education, Mr. Cardona, and he's got a lot of good ideas and things that he wants to do and things that he's getting done. Of course, he needs a little more backing from the other side of the aisle, but it's good. The people that are in place, I think they're starting to see how important funding education and doing things for our kids is, so for our future. So that was a great experience. So yeah, other than that, that's it. So we'll move on from here. F8, Mr. Segura, I believe. Yes, pulled by Mr. Segura.
Yes, I just wanted to speak in support of this. I believe that the Capital Advisors Group led by Mr. Gordon, they provide a valuable service. They have prepared us prior to meeting with the legislators in Sacramento and in DC. And they prepare us well. They're very professional, and I think it really has benefited us in getting our message across of not only of laws but of the budget and the money over this since we've been utilizing them. So I was just wanted to speak in support of that. And if there's no other questions, I'll motion.
All right, Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. More than anything, I just wanted to echo that sentiment and really the ability to have a two-way conversation with our capital so that we not only receive information, but we also have the ability to provide our input in terms of how the decisions that they have before them, in this particular mostly around budget, but the types of impacts that would have so that they can hopefully be better informed in how they approach their decision-making process and their budgeting. So I just wanted to echo that sentiment. They've been good partners and really helped us develop our budget planning in a stronger way, and also allowed us to have some input into the decisions that they're making in Sacramento. So just wanted to echo that.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Segura and a second.
Stubblefield,
Yes.
Hall, Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
All right, moving on to G6, as pulled by staff. Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. For this item, the LCAP, I will ask Ms. Griselda Delgado to provide us with a brief summary and/or synopsis of the Local Control and Accountability Plan, which was brought forward to the board for a public hearing earlier this month. So with that, Ms. Delgado.
Can you hear me now? Thank you, Superintendent Aguirre, President Solis. Thank you again for having me here. This is the second time that we're bringing the LCAP. Oh, thank you. The LCAP to you. No significant changes were made since the June 13th hearing. We had a lot of community members and parents give us a lot of feedback prior to the June 13th presentation. So this will be a quick summary for you to ask me any questions or maybe things that you're wondering about. And so I'll go fairly quickly. One thing about this slide that I kept from the last presentation is that this is the board adoption day. Today you adopt it. You don't necessarily approve it, which sometimes it could get confusing. Are we approving this or are we adopting this? So the adoption is that it tells us that this is a living document throughout the year and that you are adopting it as is, but we look at it throughout the year based on the needs of our district and our schools, because our schools use the SIPSA, their site plan, to make sure that they're aligning their goals on their site plan to the LCAP. So if things are shifting and changing, we're getting feedback from the community, then this is why you adopt it as it is now. As we get into the year, of course, the needs dictate and our community dictates how we're gonna shift as we go. So, so that's why it's a board adoption instead of an approval. So as we go, as I mentioned last time, we are looking at our enrollment very critically. I know I'm always looking at this because it's a projection as to how much funding our schools are going to get and our district is going to get. So just put that in the forefront as something that we're going to continue looking at every month. And then this is the same exact numbers that we used for our comparison from 2021 to 22-23. So I just put them side by side as you notice, so you know that in 22-23, our LCFF is a little low, lower than the 21-22. And again, based on enrollment and our projected expenditures that we've had already and so far as we have right now. And then this is the most important part. If you look at our LCAPs, if you go back for 3 years and look at all our our goals are the same. And and we have to be very proud of this. If you ask any teacher, administrator, parent, oh, what is the LCAP goals? They will tell you at least 2 or 3. So that's great. So everyone knows our LCAP goals. But what shifts a little bit every year is our action steps. The action steps is what we either increase in funding because we find needs for that, or we add an action step depending on the goal. Goal 1 is teaching and learning, so that's one of the most important goals to make sure that our students can achieve, especially our ones that struggle, which is that's what this fund is for. For the highlighted parts, and again, I presented this slide last time I was here, The social emotional learning and mental health target for this next year, as you know, this is a very high needs. Every single community group, teachers and administrators, this is a high need. And I think it has been mentioned in various meetings and in past board meetings. The counselor support as well. The re-engagement and outreach, that is still in the forefront. Even though we have been back for a year, we need to re-engage our students because we need to re-engagement so our enrollment can increase. So how do we re-engage differently? So that's also something that we are targeting. And the after-school program is a vehicle to be able to increase that enrollment and get kids to do more than just the curriculum and reading and writing and math. That's all great, but we have to re-engage them into activities that they feel positive about, that they can do, and that's how we'll reach them into increasing their achievement through academics. And of course, the biggest one, professional development. I think we all need to reflect and slow down and say, okay, how can I re-engage myself as an educator to make sure that I can go back into the classroom and I can see how I can instruct differently than before COVID, because we're all different people at this point. So a lot of investment on professional development at all levels, not just teachers, but administrators and classified. So that is in a nutshell, a recap as to what we discussed. I'm sure you have seen the actual document, but I'm here if you have any questions, and I highly recommend that we adopt this LCAP.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Segura. Go ahead.
Pull up my question here. Thank you, Ms. Delgado, for that presentation. Very well said. In what you were saying at the end about re-engaging that is huge. And one of the questions I had was around on the slide 5, do STEAM activities such as our solar sprint, the STEM research fair, STEM summer camp, math field day, things of that nature, do they fall under the after-school program right now? And would it benefit us if they did? Or how is that laid out right now?
That's a great question, Trustee Segura. And I really, the after-school program, every site develops their own after-school activities based on request. So in the beginning of the school year, the students submit a survey to their coordinator to create the activities that they want to pursue. Now, some of them pursue the same activities that they had the previous year, but some of them create new activities and/or clubs. So it depends. That's the answer to your question. So some schools, if they already have these activities going, yes, it includes, and the LCAP supports the coordinator staffing to ensure that we have a staff member dedicated there to support those activities and the partnership with their after-school programs with South Bay Community Services. So the answer is yes, but it depends.
So to yes, as far as what you said, and that it falls under the after-school programs funding?
If the students request it and they want it as an activity.
And then it would come out of that, okay. And then on the other slide, number 4, it said that we, in 2021, our expenditures were 60 million, and just, do we know, I'm sure we know, what we actually spent out of that as of today?
So I'll ask, Ms. Delgado is probably going to be a little bit of a tag team with our finance office as well. So Ms. Delgado, is that something that's better directed to our CFO? All right. Dr. Salkel?
Thank you, Dr. Geary. And Trustees Segura, so the item is about $13 million that we're anticipating, which we have in the budget, set up in the reserves as unspent of that $60 million that we're anticipating. So that'll carry forward into next year's budget plan.
Okay, so that's still there to utilize.
Yes.
And I think my other question was we don't really have the answer unless we got them denied. It was about the discretionary block grant, but we were waiting for the budget. So I think we were just figuring that out. So I thank you for those answers.
Thank you, Trustee Segura. Just a brief note on that. Yes, on the budget piece from the state, there are still some pieces that are to be determined. Once those are decided upon, we will definitely make any adjustments and bring it to the board during the 45-day budget revision period.
Oh, thank you. And I just like to restate, what Ms. Delgado stated about the re-engagement. I just think that is just such a critical thing, as we all know, and the more we can do there, so that our students can learn in school, and, it is super important, and I know that it's just so critical, and just in having a daughter that just graduated and knowing a lot of my nieces and nephews are still going through school, our high schools and middle schools, and that'd benefit them so much to be able to participate in those activities after school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Mr. Tarantino?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Delgado, for the presentation and for putting it into very succinct English for us to understand, because it could be very complicated. I do want to stress the fact that counselor support of students depends on district support of counselors. And I think sometimes our actions are not perceived as supporting counselors. And so as we move forward in the next year, perhaps we can put more attention into the perception that's out there among counselors that they're not being supported by the district, because they can't do their job unless we support them. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Ms. Delgado. I'll entertain a motion to...
I'll make a motion for adoption.
We have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second.
Stubblefield?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent.
Okay, moving on to G8, and that was pulled by Ms. Hall and Mr. Segura. Who would like to start?
I'll go.
Okay, Mr. Segura.
So my question was around, was just basically around, is this new literature in terms of the literature, AP language and the environmental science and ethnic studies and astronomy, or is this an additional books and literature?
Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. So with that, I'll ask Ms. Maria Esther Lizarraga to provide us with a brief overview of what this item includes as part of this instructional material acquisition. Ms. Lizarraga?
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. Thank you, Mr. Segura. The materials are brand new to the district, so English high school, English middle school, science middle school are all new to the district. Ethnic studies, all of the instructional materials are also brand new to our district. Astronomy is a brand new class as well. AP Environmental Science is a new version. It's a supplemental material for the course. And there's some additional materials for AP Calc, AP Statistics. Those courses are those are new versions that we are purchasing because the old versions are no longer available. So we need to update those for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Mrs. Hall? Vice President Hall?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to ask a couple of questions, but I wanted to say thank you for bringing forward the adoption for the ethnic studies curriculum. I think it's been a long time coming. We really, I think, have been very anxious about having the ethnic studies courses across our school district. What I would like to ask is there a plan is this the only curriculum the only books being adopted for the ethnic studies, or will there be additional materials? Have we already done that? The reason being because I think it's important to also recognize the indigenous peoples and their history in our country. So I would like to see if that is a plan to include that in the ethnic studies curriculum.
Thank you. Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. With that, I'll ask Ms. Lizarraga to briefly describe how this fits with earlier instructional material adoptions, and then what are some of the planning, and what is some of the planning in terms of moving forward with that particular question?
Thank you, Dr. Eager. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Yes, so the committee has recommended, the Textbook Adoption Committee for Ethnic Studies has recommended 2 of those books, but they also recommended a series of supplemental materials, which are also, it's an extensive list that includes Indigenous peoples' history, for example. Enrique's Journey is another title. So there's over 15 additional resources for ethnic studies that cites. And actually the Ethnic Studies Working Group, which is composed of ethnic studies teachers who are exploring all the different resources and including them in the instructional guides for the course. As they plan these resources, they look at culturally responsive pedagogy that includes culturally responsive texts and strategies.
Thank you. I would like to really understand, so maybe an additional presentation down the, in a future month board meeting. Dr. Gary, I would request that we have, a presentation on how the teachers are recruited to teach the ethnic study courses in our district, and also how we're moving towards the requirement. If we can meet that requirement to require it for high school completion before the 2030 deadline, that is the state's deadline. I think that whatever we can do to move forward to meet that would be great. And I'd like to understand, to make sure that it's consistent across our district, how the courses are taught, that we, are seeing how they choose the curriculum to make sure that it is being taught pretty uniformly across our district. So that if we can have a presentation from the committee perhaps in a future board meeting, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you. Certainly, we can ask Ms. Lizarraga to work with the group, since she is facilitating that committee, to ensure we have that conversation and we can share that out so that she can share out calibration methodology and overall kind of how do we go about implementing. We are, I think, within San Diego County, one of the leaders in implementing ethnic studies, but we'll make sure that we can have the team be here at a board meeting to present that information.
Perfect. Mr. Segura?
Thank you. I appreciate the good work they're doing in this regard very much. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Mr. Segura?
Yeah, so I was just going to echo what Vice President Hall had mentioned, and I've always been a proponent of ethnic studies in our district, and I'm glad to see this moving forward. I know we've already had it, but even more so in our district, and now that it's it's a California law. And I know that, not here, I would say, but some critics have, mislabeled or mistaken ethnic studies for CRT, and that's not, what we're doing here. But this, is an attempt to correct the lack of access, misrepresentation, and neglect of Indigenous people and people of color through better representation of the experience, contributions, culture, and art, and politics of groups whose stories were typically overlooked. And I just think it's great that that we're doing this, and I think it really brings an understanding and respect between students of different backgrounds. So, and I got that out of an article. I didn't write that myself, but I got that article from the CSBA. I don't want you to think I'm all that, I'm trying to be all that, but do a lot of reading. But I truly appreciate that, and I know it really opened my eyes when I took my first ethnic studies in college. And I was just like, what? I never knew this, and it really motivated me to become more active, and really I think is one of the reasons why I'm here, is because of that. So I fully support this, and I think that's a great idea from Vice President Hall to have a presentation on that, just so we could learn more about that. And with that, we need a motion. I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a
I'll
motion
second it.
and a second.
Stubblefield,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, moving on to H2. And that was pulled by Vice President Hall.
Yes, thank you, very much for this item. I'm glad that we're working with Wellness Together, along with so many other, mental health resources, across our state. It's important that we engage them here in our district. And I noticed there's only a few of our schools named on here, on this, board item. I would hope there's a plan to expand it so that we have that for all schools, because I think every school needs to have, the resources and the personnel informed. I think really what was mentioned during the public comment was about enabling our teachers and staff, you know, our classified people to really be informed on how to, what the responses are to de-escalate, to encourage, but also to know the signs around mental health. That's clear. I was very encouraged by Ms. Stubblefield's remarks about the committee, the student on the student wellness and mental health, the student committee that was formed. I'm hoping that there's a representative from every school on that committee. I think that it really is, especially in some schools, it may not be as apparent, the need, but it's there in every school, and I think it can only help with that. So I appreciate this, but I would like to know the plan to how, if there is a plan to expand it, and what the timeline for that is.
Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. On this item, there's two pieces to it. One is that it is a grant item, so I'll ask Dr. Moore to present kind of how that came about. And secondly, that also in the area of student services, there is work going on to bring greater coherence around our practices, because I think that's one area that we've definitely observed, and we continue to improve upon. So I'll ask Dr. Moore to touch on those two pieces. One is the particular to this grant, and then secondly, some of the conversations that are beginning to take place in planning and preparation for next school year around building greater coherence when it comes to mental wellness. So with that, I'll ask Dr. Moore for more context. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre, and good evening, Board. Trustee Hall, thank you for the question. And really, you're speaking about some of our overall plans as they relate to mental health. And you may recall just a few board meetings ago, maybe a couple months ago, Dr. Elvia Estrella, who is really being tasked with coordinating our mental health services. She's a program manager in our student services department. She conducted a presentation and she spoke about some, in generalities, some of our mental health services and really the efforts we're taking to get those services to our school sites. Our Wellness Together contract that we are presenting in item H2 is just that. It's a grant item, and it's above and beyond the baseline of services that we are providing at specific sites. And this contract through Blue Shield really provides some additional coverages for some underinsured students or students who may not qualify for Medi-Cal. And so the sites had been selected in previous iterations of this grant. And while this is one component and we may or may not be able to extend this particular grant, I would really like to offer that the services that we're looking to expand throughout the district really are stemming from a couple of areas. One is our Leidos partnership, where we are working with our military families to identify and have mental health services, again, throughout district schools that have families that serve our military students. And then our Sweetwater Outpatient Clinic, again, and that was probably really the thrust of Dr. Estrella's presentation a few weeks ago. We got an extended a grant this year and for implementation next year at our Sweetwater Outpatient Clinic, and we are looking to hire some additional staff so that those students, and again, it primarily focuses, it's a grant from San Diego County Health and Human Services. It primarily focuses on our students who may qualify for Medi-Cal, but we are also able to serve other students and families through that platform. And that's really, that's the essential building block of providing mental health services throughout the district, as well as, and again, Trustee Hall, thank you for the question and really tying it to some of the concerns we heard earlier in the meeting, because we all know that when our students have IEPs, oftentimes they are, there's designated mental health services related to those IEPs. And so I'm working again with Dr. Estrella and with the Special Services Department and Director Michelle Sturm-Gonzalez on ensuring that the therapists that work in our with our special services and with those families provide those services on a very, very consistent basis. And so we are, I think, in a great place where we are recognizing the importance of mental health. There are more resources coming for mental health, and now we are in the throes of working on coordinating our efforts to provide coverage throughout our campuses as it relates to mental health. And so I look forward to in an upcoming meeting or even via Friday notes to provide more information about our mental health services for our students and families.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, have a motion
I'll second.
and a second.
Stubblefield,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
K4, Dr. Aguirre.
Thank you, President Solis. So for K4, this is our annual proposed budget adoption. Similar to the Lcap, this came forward to the board for a public hearing earlier this month. And so I'll ask Dr. Salkel to provide us with a brief overview now that that presentation has been brought forward as a public hearing, and perhaps just a brief summary of some of the context that we are hearing from Sacramento. So with that, Dr. Salkel.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre, and good evening again, President Solis and Board Trustees. So as Dr. Aguirre mentioned earlier in the meeting, opening up, the Governor Newsom and the state legislature, they approved the budget last night. So we're always in that unique situation. We're bringing forward to the board a budget to adopt, knowing that these things has also changed at the state level. But one thing to know, based on some updates that we received from Capital Advisors this morning, and again, things are evolving. Even about 15 minutes before we came to the board meeting, we received an update again from Capital Advisors. A lot of it is centered around advocacy. Even after our last board meeting, we had some advocacy efforts. One item to note as an example is the COVID attendance relief. There were different positions, and I think I'll jump here to it, that we had received this one here. Some feedback where the governor had included this in the budget, and there was conversation at the state legislature. This did remain in the final adopted budget. So we are able to use the 94% attendance amount that we had from 2019-20. So that helps the district from a funding standpoint, as well as how that rolls into the other consideration that was in the final budget is the 3-year rolling average. So again, it really helps to help soften things in terms of the declining enrollment over time, but the most immediate impacts that we've all experienced. A couple of other things. It's really the details now. We really are going to be waiting for trailer bills that are going to follow to give us a little bit more of the specifics and how things are being accounted for, particularly around the one-time funding. And I know Trustee Segura, you mentioned about with the block grant. There was a new component to it under it's called the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. That's going to focus on arts, music, and instructional materials. We're hearing there's different components of whether it's going to be based on unduplicated student counts or it's going to be on the average daily attendance. So that'll be key for us to get the trailer bill and that aspect of it, and the various components of how those dollars are going to be spent, and the flexibility of some of that if that's there. Also, the LCFF base grant, where those final numbers will materialize. We should be receiving the calculator from FCMAT in mid to late July, so we'll be able to update those numbers. So as Dr. Geary mentioned earlier, we will then bring forward on the 45-day budget, the August board meeting, an update. It'll primarily be perhaps around these revenue numbers that we're going to see once we have all the final details in the upcoming weeks. But certainly the advocacy efforts have materialized and are included in this budget and the positive impact to the district.
Thank you, Dr. Salkeld. Ms. Vito, any questions or comments from the public?
No.
No. Questions or comments from the board? I'll wait for Mr. Tarantino. All right, questions or comments?
No.
All right, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion. I'll second.
Stubblefield?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
All right, Q6. And that was pulled by Mr. Segura.
Yeah, I just, speaking in support of this, and just, I didn't want it to just go on the consent, because it's really a big step for our district to be able to do things for a number of our schools, and some on the west side. This is where we get a lot of our revenues to do things at the schools that don't have Mello. And I'm glad we're looking at this and trying to want to utilize the SIB model. And I think if you could maybe go over that a little, Dr. Getty, I'd appreciate that. What I learned from you around that. So that's really, I wanted to comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, and I want to echo the sentiment by Trustee Segura in not wanting to have this resolution go unperceived. This is the next step in our district preparing to issue facility bonds. Once again, we have not been able to issue facility bonds over the course of the last 4 years for many reasons that have been well documented. But for us at this point, we have been doing the work to prepare for that, both from the finance perspective and Dr. Salkeld leading her work and her team with that work, and also Ms. Quirk leading her team with that work. And really it's about leading a team, and it really is a diverse and comprehensive team. And so what we do here with this particular resolution is bring forward an action to inform the Board of Supervisors at the County of San Diego that we intend to issue bonds. For us, this is likely to be in the fall of this year. And we need to request that the Board of Supervisors prepare, in essence, as tax rate so that we can move forward with this work. Issuing bonds is a complicated and complex process. It involves lots of counsel, as in legal counsel. It involves financial analysts and support. It involves district staff on the facility side and finance side. It's truly a comprehensive process. And I have every confidence that our team, with being led by Dr. Salkeld and Ms. Quirk, are really setting the tone to do this right. And so this is the next piece of that puzzle. We will also continue to work forward in planning and construction to bring forward a list of projects in the near future. And this is exciting for our district. I think, as we have seen over the course of the last month or so, our district very much needs it. Our facilities need it. And so to be able to have the ability to contemplate investments into our facilities is critical. And for me is a note of, again, just continuing to address some of the issues behind and put those behind us so that we can move forward constructively and in order to really be able to provide our students with the facilities that not only they need, but that they deserve. And so this is part of the next step in that process is asking the county to prepare a tax rate for when we are ready to issue bonds.
Thank you. Vice President Hall.
Thank you, President Solis. And yes, thank you, Mr. Segura, for pulling the item, just because I did want to recognize the fact that the Bond Oversight Committee Chair was here at the beginning of our meeting, and his remarks said that we were utilizing the funds as they should be, and our construction work was, we were doing good things with that bond money that we'd already issued bonds for. So that's just a stamp of you know, the kind of stamp that you want on your efforts, that we're doing the right thing. And we will continue to do that. It's our pledge to our community. So thank you for that. And I appreciate everything you've said. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion for approval.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second.
Stubblefield,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Sorrentino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent.
Excellent. With that, that's it for our agenda. Happy 4th of July. We'll see you July 11th. Meeting adjourned.